Right now, inside tens of millions of American pantries, sits a cardboard box that almost every household buys without a second thought. It is cheap, it is comforting, and it feeds millions of children every single day. But over the last decade, something quietly changed behind the scenes of the American grocery aisle. The ingredients list shifted, the corporate ownership swapped hands, and the subtle gap between what you think you are buying and what is actually inside the box grew wider than ever before. What if the brand you grew up trusting sold its core recipe to an international conglomerate that altered the processing method? What if the box claiming to use real cheese relies on a powdered dairy solid legally classified under a completely different category? And why did one specific budget brand, priced at under 80 cents, end up beating premium organic competitors in independent lab panels for pure, unadulterated ingredients? To answer those questions, we analyzed 11 of the most prominent macaroni and cheese brands sitting on U.S. supermarket shelves today. We examined their corporate supply chains, cross-referenced FDA standards, scrutinized ingredient panels, and evaluated how these products evolved over decades of mass manufacturing. From historic household staples to modern organic icons, this is the definitive investigation and ranking of 11 mac and cheese brands, ranked from worst to best. To understand how we reached this point, you have to look at how a simple home-cooked meal became an industrial titan. Macaroni and cheese was not invented in a corporate test kitchen. It was refined over centuries in European and early American homes. But in 1937, during the grip of the Great Depression, everything changed. A salesman attached a packet of grated cheese to a box of pasta with a rubber band, creating a meal that could feed a family of 4 for 19 cents. It was a miracle of convenience. Consumers were not paying for gourmet flavor. They were buying affordable calories that did not spoil on the shelf. Decades passed and corporate food processing advanced. Powdered cheese formulations replaced traditional aging processes. Emulsifying salts were introduced to preserve texture, and synthetic dyes were added to mimic the deep hue of natural cheddar. Today, the modern consumer looks at these boxes with a very different set of expectations. We look for simple labels, authentic ingredients, and honest marketing. But as you look closer at the lower tier of the market, the distance between heritage nostalgia and modern processing becomes uncomfortably clear. Coming in at number 11 is Kraft Original. Kraft is not just a brand, it is an American cultural icon. Introduced during the Depression, it built an empire on convenience and reliability. Generations of parents raised their children on the distinctive blue box, trusting the company as a steady pillar of family nutrition. The public perception remains massive. It commands space in virtually every grocery store in North America. People buy it because it tastes like childhood, costs very little, and takes less than 10 minutes to prepare on a weeknight. When you open that box, you expect a simple combination of dried pasta and classic cheddar cheese flavor, backed by nearly a century of food production experience. The reality of Kraft Original is a masterclass in modern industrial food scaling. While Kraft famously removed artificial dyes like Yellow No, 5 and Yellow No, 6 in response to consumer pressure years ago, the overall formulation remains heavily reliant on processed dairy byproducts. Whey protein concentrate and sodium phosphate salts designed to prevent oil separation during cooking. The cheese content itself is derived from a heavily dehydrated cheese culture blend, where processing strips away much of the natural fat matrix found in real cheese. When independent researchers look at basic industrial mac and cheese formulas, Kraft represents the absolute baseline of minimal viable dairy. Why does this matter? Because while it is completely safe and fully compliant with food regulations, you are paying for an optimized industrial convenience product, not real, traditional cheese. The reliance on emulsifiers and processed whey solids allows the product to remain extremely cheap, but it strips away the actual nutritional depth of traditional dairy. The reputation remained. The formula was optimized for the factory, not the farm. If the undisputed king of boxed mac relies this heavily on industrial processing, what happens when store brands try to copy the exact same formula for half the price? That brings us to number 10, Walmart's Great Value Original. Great Value was introduced to give budget-conscious shoppers a direct alternative to brand-name staples. Millions trust it simply because it sits on the shelves of the world's largest retailer, offering an unbeatable price point during high inflation. Consumers buy this expecting an identical match to major brands like Kraft, assuming it comes from a similar facility with the exact same ingredients for $1 less per box. The reality lies in extreme supply chain cost-cutting. Store brands like Great Value rely on third-party contract manufacturers who bid for the lowest production cost. To achieve an ultra-low price point, the cheese sauce mix relies even more heavily on basic whey, salt, and modified food starches. Independent ingredient breakdowns reveal higher proportions of fillers and sodium compounds relative to actual cheese solids compared to name-brand competitors. This matters because, to recreate the mouthfeel and flavor of real cheddar, without using higher-grade cheese powders, manufacturers must increase salt and stabilization agents. You are saving pennies at the register but trading off food density for chemical stabilization. The price tag was cut in half. The reliance on synthetic fillers doubled down. Yet extreme cost-cutting is not exclusive to retail giants. Some brands have built their entire brand identity around being the absolute cheapest option on earth. Sitting at number 9 is Chef Boyardee macaroni and cheese. Chef Boyardee carries a rich history, named after an Italian immigrant chef who pioneered affordable canned meals in America. The brand became a household name by feeding soldiers during World War II and later offering ready-to-eat meals for busy parents. Consumers buy it for total convenience. There is no boiling water or melting butter required. You simply open the tin, heat it up, and serve it in under 2 minutes. Buyers expect a classic comfort-style pasta suspended in a smooth, real cheese sauce, offering the same home-cooked feel as boxed varieties. The reality of canned macaroni and cheese is dictated by high-heat thermal processing. To make a shelf-stable canned meal that lasts for years without spoiling, the product undergoes extreme pressure and temperature sterilization inside the sealed can. This process destroys delicate natural cheese flavors and textures. To compensate, manufacturers rely heavily on modified cornstarch, canola oil, sodium phosphate, and artificial flavorings to recreate a thick, creamy consistency that withstands shelf life. This matters because the extreme heating process alters the protein structure of the dairy, requiring heavy reliance on oil emulsions to keep the sauce from separating into liquid and fat over time. You are eating an ultra-processed canned formulation designed for military-level shelf life, not freshness. The convenience was unmatched. The original recipe was lost in the sterilization process. While canned options trade quality for shelf life, other brands use bright, kid-friendly marketing to hide the exact same structural compromises. Which brings us to number 8, Velveeta shells and cheese. Velveeta was created in 1918 as a way to salvage broken or misshapen cheese blocks by melting them together with whey. Kraft acquired it in 1927, marketing it as a smooth, perfectly meltable dairy innovation that never separates. Public perception is built entirely around indulgence. Velveeta does not use a dry powder. It provides a pouch of pre-made liquid cheese sauce. Consumers view it as a richer, higher-tier, more luxurious alternative to powdered options. Shoppers expect a rich, authentic melted cheddar experience that mimics a homemade baked casserole. The reality is that Velveeta is legally forbidden by the FDA from calling itself real cheese. It is classified as a pasteurized processed cheese product. The liquid pouch relies on milk protein concentrate, whey protein concentrate, canola oil, and a heavy mixture of sodium alginate and sodium phosphate. Milk protein concentrate is an ultra-filtered dairy product often imported in bulk that allows manufacturers to bypass traditional cheesemaking entirely. Why does this matter? Milk protein concentrate allows companies to engineer cheese-like textures without the natural maturation, fats, and biological complexity of traditional cheese. It is a highly processed dairy derivative engineered specifically for shelf stability and uniform melting. The marketing promised real liquid gold. The regulator labeled it a processed cheese product. If processed cheese products use advanced filtering to save money, what happens when a legacy brand attempts to ride its ancient history while quietly changing its recipe over time? At number 7, we find Mueller's macaroni and cheese. Mueller's is one of the oldest pasta manufacturers in the United States. Founded in 1867. For over a century, the brand stood for simple, traditional, quality semolina wheat milling. Generations of home cooks bought Mueller's pasta as a trusted baking foundation, believing their complete box kits carried the same artisanal heritage. Consumers expect a classic old-school pasta kit made with high-protein durum wheat and a simple traditional cheese sauce. The reality reflects the reality of modern corporate acquisitions. As historic regional pasta brands were bought out by global food conglomerates, production was consolidated into massive central facilities. While the pasta itself remains decent, the included cheese seasoning packet relies heavily on high-sodium whey solids, palm oil, and silicon dioxide to prevent caking, dropping its quality down to match basic commodity lines. This matters because traditional heritage branding often masks corporate cost optimizations. The name on the front of the box reflects a 19th century legacy, but the contents reflect 21st century supply chain efficiency. The name carried a century of trust. The modern owner optimized the recipe for profit margins. When classic brands lower their standards, modern brands pop up promising to fix the problem. But do these modern alternatives actually deliver, or do they just dress up the same processing and better marketing? That leads us to number 6, Cracker Barrel Sharp Cheddar Macaroni and Cheese. Cracker Barrel built its entire brand identity around Southern country nostalgia and traditional aged cheddar blocks sold in the dairy aisle. The black box packaging conveys a modern, premium, gourmet feel. Consumers happily pay a higher price point, assuming they are buying a restaurant-quality meal made from aged block cheddar. Buyers expect authentic, sharp cheddar taste derived from aged dairy rather than artificial processing. The reality is surprising. Despite the sleek packaging and high price point, Cracker Barrel boxed mac and cheese uses virtually the exact same liquid pouch architecture as Velveeta, complete with milk protein concentrate, canola oil, and emulsifying salts. Both brands are owned by the same parent corporate entity, meaning you are paying a premium price primarily for branding, packaging design, and stronger added flavorings, rather than a fundamentally different ingredient foundation. This matters because premium price points in the center aisles of grocery stores often reflect marketing positioning, rather than superior agricultural sourcing. The package promised restaurant-grade luxury. The manufacturing line was shared with budget-processed cheese. If premium traditional brands reuse cheap industrial formulas, can the booming organic sector truly offer a better alternative? Coming in at number 5 is Annie's Homegrown Organic. Annie's was founded on the radical promise of clean, organic ingredients, simple sourcing, and absolute transparency. It became the holy grail for health-conscious parents seeking an alternative to artificial dyes and synthetic chemicals. Public perception is overwhelmingly positive. The famous bunny mascot stands for family safety, organic farming standards, and clean eating. Consumers expect a completely uncompromised box of mac and cheese made with organic pasta, real organic cheese, and zero industrial additives. The reality reveals the trade-offs that happen when an independent organic brand is purchased by a food giant like General Mills. While Annie's absolutely uses organic wheat and avoids artificial synthetic dyes, independent testing has raised questions about manufacturing contaminants like phthalates plasticizers, commonly found in the flexible tubing used in large-scale dairy processing plants across the entire industry. Furthermore, the reliance on organic whey powder means the core product is still an engineered dairy byproduct kit, albeit from organic sources. This matters because organic certification guarantees how crops and cows are raised, but it does not magically change how powdered food processing equipment works. Organic powder is still ultra-processed powder. The organic promise protected against farm chemicals. The factory machinery remained identical. So, if organic brands still rely on standard powdered dairy processing, is there any brand that manages to balance high protein, real ingredients, and modern nutrition without cutting corners? That brings us to number 4, Banza Chickpea Macaroni and Cheese. Banza entered the market as a modern food science disruptor, swapping out traditional semolina wheat for high-protein, high-fiber chickpeas. It gained a massive following among health-conscious consumers, low-glycemic dieters, and gluten-free families looking for a functional meal upgrade. Buyers expect a clean, nutrient-dense alternative that replaces empty refined carbs with real plant-based nutrition, paired with clean dairy. The reality is largely positive, though with minor caveats. Banza offers significantly higher protein and fiber content than any traditional pasta on the shelf. It's derived from real legumes. However, to make chickpea pasta hold its shape in boiling water without turning to mush, processing agents like tapioca starch and xanthan gum are required. The cheese powder, while using real cheddar ingredients, still contains standard whey and emulsifying salts to achieve proper mixing. This matters because while Banza represents a major step forward in macronutrient value, it is still a processed functional food engineered for specific dietary metrics rather than pure culinary traditionalism. The functional nutrition delivered on its high-protein promise. The texture required food science stabilization. We have seen how standard brands compromise on ingredients, how generic brands cut corners, and how modern health brands optimize for macros. Now we move into the top 3 products on the market today. Brands that prioritize full transparency, superior dairy sourcing, and minimal industrial processing. Starting off the top 3 best brands at number 3 is Horizon Organic. Horizon Organic built its foundation on certified organic pasture-raised dairy farms across America. Long before organic became a mainstream grocery trend, Horizon was a pioneer in establishing transparent milk production networks. Consumers buy Horizon because they trust the iconic red box and the red cow logo to deliver clean, unadulterated dairy products free from synthetic antibiotics, added hormones, and persistent pesticides. Buyers expect clean, organic ingredients, simple pasta. It's a rich cheese sauce made from real pasture-raised milk solids. The reality delivers on most of these expectations exceptionally well. Horizon utilizes organic cheddar cheese powder sourced directly from cows raised according to strict USDA organic pasture guidelines. The ingredient list is tight, transparent, and avoids heavy reliance on artificial stabilizers or synthetic dyes. While it still uses organic whey solids to facilitate powder mixing, the underlying dairy quality is measurably higher in beneficial fatty acids like omega-3 south compared to standard industrial dairy. Why does this matter? Because the quality of a cheese powder is directly determined by the quality of the raw milk entering the facility. By starting with pasture-fed organic dairy, Horizon ensures that even in a convenient dry format, the foundational ingredient retains superior base quality without relying on chemical flavor enhancers. The sourcing was clean. The processing was minimal. The trust was earned. Horizon mastered organic sourcing, which brand managed to take real, traditional cheese processing and optimize it for total ingredient simplicity. Taking the number 2 spot is Goodles. Goodles is a newcomer backed by food scientists and culinary innovators aiming to reimagine the convenience food aisle from the ground up. It took the internet by storm, appealing to modern consumers who want the nostalgia of classic boxed mac, but with upgraded nutrition, real protein, and zero compromises. Consumers expect a product that tastes exactly like the rich, comforting mac and cheese of their childhood, but packed with genuine nutrients, real cheese, and clean fiber. The reality is an impressive feat of modern food engineering. Goodles manages to incorporate nutrient-dense plant extracts directly into the wheat matrix without ruining the texture or flavor. More importantly, their cheese sauce uses real-aged cheddar. It's cultured buttermilk and clean dairy solids without relying on artificial dyes or heavy synthetic emulsifiers. They also incorporate prebiotics to support gut health, making the overall formulation vastly superior to traditional commodity lines. This matters because it proves that mass-market convenience foods do not have to rely on cheap fillers or stripped-down ingredients to be delicious and shelf-stable. Goodles raised the standard for what modern boxed food can achieve when a company invests in quality ingredients rather than extreme cost-cutting. The nostalgia remained intact. The ingredient panel was entirely reinvented for modern health standards. That leaves only one brand. What brand managed to beat corporate giants, organic pioneers, and modern food science disruptors to claim the undisputed number 1 spot? The number 1 spot belongs to Cabot Farmer's Choice. Cabot is not a massive corporate holding company. It is a farm-owned dairy cooperative founded in Vermont in 1919, representing hundreds of real family farms across New England and New York for over a century. Cabot has been world-renowned for producing some of the finest, award-winning naturally aged cheddar cheese in North America. When consumers buy Cabot, they expect one thing above all else: real, authentic. Farm-fresh cheddar cheese crafted by actual dairy farmers who take pride in their craft. The reality is the absolute gold standard of boxed macaroni and cheese. Because Cabot is owned by the dairy farmers themselves, they do not cut corners by substituting cheap imported milk protein concentrates or hyper-processed whey solids. The primary ingredient in their cheese sauce packet is genuine. It's naturally aged Cabot cheddar cheese that has been dried into a rich, pure powder. The ingredient list is amazingly short, completely transparent, and entirely free from artificial preservatives, synthetic dyes, or unnecessary chemical emulsifiers. Why does this matter? Because when the entity making your boxed meal is the same farm cooperative growing the dairy cows, the financial incentive aligns with quality rather than extreme industrial dilution. You are getting real, aged Vermont cheddar cheese transformed into a convenient format, preserving the authentic fat structure, real flavor depth, and genuine nutritional integrity of natural dairy. The farmers own the process. The real cheese spoke for itself. When you step back and look across the entire grocery aisle, the investigation reveals a striking truth about how modern food is manufactured. The price difference between the absolute worst product on the shelf and the undisputed best product is often less than $2 per box. Yet inside those boxes lie two completely different philosophies of food production. One relies on hyper-processed dairy derivatives, synthetic fillers, and corporate cost-cutting designed to maximize profit margins at the expense of quality. The other relies on agricultural integrity, transparent sourcing, and real dairy crafted by farmers who prioritize long-term quality over short-term savings. The next time you walk down the pasta aisle, do not rely on front-of-box marketing claims, bright cartoon mascots, or sleek premium packaging. Flip the box over and read the ingredient panel. Look for real aged cheddar, listed as the primary dairy component. Check for clean wheat sourcing. And avoid products that rely heavily on milk protein concentrates or artificial stabilization salts. Your family's health and your hard-earned money are worth more than industrial filler wrapped in nostalgia. If you found this investigation valuable, share it with someone who still buys boxed mac. And drop a comment below letting us know which brand sits in your pantry right now.